Hi everyone, my name is Michelle. I'm a therapist in the Seattle, Washington area with my practice, Next Chapter Counseling. And today I'm going to be answering the question of how can you make it less weird if you're still living with an ex? So this happens. I think this is much more common now than maybe it used to be out of economic necessity or things like that. But if you and a partner were living together and then you end the relationship, sometimes people choose to continue living together indefinitely. They just switch to being more roommates instead of being romantic partners. Some people, they still live together for, I don't know, couple weeks, a month, however long it's needed for one or both people to transition. But it doesn't just always happen overnight when you live together that the relationship ends and immediately, the next day you're living separately. This is a process. So whether it's a short-term temporary situation of living together while you're broken up, or a longer, more permanent situation of living together though you're not a couple anymore, this is a really valid question to ask, like how to navigate this, because it can be a very weird situation. So I'm going to share some things that I recommend you do or think about while you're in this spot with someone who is now your ex. So the first thing that I really recommend is to first and foremost set clear physical boundaries. You guys are not a couple anymore, and it can be really confusing if you're still acting like a couple physically, though you're broken up. So I recommend, if you can, sleep in separate bedrooms. If there's not a separate bedroom, maybe one of you sleeps on the couch. If that's not realistic for someone to sleep on the couch on an ongoing basis, and if you're like, well, really what makes the most sense is for us to sleep in the same bed, I mean, there at least needs to be a verbal agreement of nothing is happening here. And yeah, I mean, it happens sometimes where couples decide to keep the physical side of their relationship going while ending the romantic side, I guess you could say. That does occur. However, there needs to be a clear conversation about if both people want to do that. And overall, it can make things more confusing if you continue sleeping together rather than just cutting all physical ties. That's why I recommend it. It's a clear line in the sand that says, even though we're living together, we are no longer a couple. So if you're watching a movie, that doesn't mean you're cuddling together on the couch anymore. It means maybe you're sitting on opposite ends. Set some clear physical boundaries so that one or both of you is not left wondering like, hold on, are we getting back together? Are the feelings still here? What's going on? Just make it cut and dry is what I recommend first and foremost, is to physically be as separate as you can be while you're still living under the same roof. The second thing I recommend that I think is really important is sometimes what happens to couples when they break up but they're still living together is that one or both people just cease communication. They just basically give the other person the cold shoulder. They don't talk to them anymore. They never spend any time together. It's the silent treatment on steroids, basically, when the relationship ends but you're still cohabiting. So this doesn't feel very good, and I don't recommend it. Yes, you guys are not going to be romantic anymore, but it does, because you guys are still living together, at least treat this person with some decency. Say hello, say goodbye, communicate somewhat. You don't need to be having long drawn out conversations together that are going to feel emotionally intimate in any way, but show some common courtesy. That's the second thing I recommend. Don't just stop talking to this person. You guys probably need to talk to one another, and you likely have some conversations to discuss about what's happening from here and what changes are going to occur while we're still living together that's different from when we were in a relationship. So be polite, be courteous. Don't just start, eating the food they bought. Like, treat them like you would a roommate and be respectful, even if you guys are spending more time in your own rooms or separately than you might typically. Don't just start giving them the silent treatment. Be courteous. That's the second thing I recommend. And then the final thing I recommend is that it is really important as you guys are navigating this transition of living together but being broken up to really be clear and speak up for things that you would like or things that you would not like. Sometimes this happens where one person, even if the physical boundaries are pretty clear of like, okay, we're not sleeping together anymore or things like that. Even if the physical boundaries get really clear, sometimes the emotional boundaries are a little fuzzy. Maybe your ex is still going to the store and buying groceries for you, and you're like, hey, I know we used to do this together, but maybe now I just want to be responsible for my own groceries and you be responsible for your own groceries. So start figuring out what would feel right for you in this process and speak up about it. Sure, the conversation may be weird, it may be messy, it may not go very well, but it's better than saying nothing. Speak up and say what you would like. If your ex is like, hey, let's watch a movie together, and if you're just like, nope, I don't really want to be spending much time with you, it's okay to say, I'd really prefer not to. I want to be spending more time in my room now, or whatever it is. So I really recommend that as situations come up and as you are figuring out what it's like to be roommates instead of partners, that you address things as they happen with what would feel right for you, and that you use your voice in that way so that your ex knows, okay, this is still okay, or wait, this isn't okay anymore, like how it used to be. If you have a question for me about love or relationships, send me an email, nextchapter.michelle@gmail.com, and I'll see you guys next week. Thanks.